Hello and warmest greetings in this chilly season to all of you in the Christian Church in Ohio. My name is Reverend Dr. Sharon Stanley-Rea, and I'm deeply grateful to continue to work as your Director for Refugee and Immigration Ministries for the Christian Church Disciples of Christ through Disciples Home Missions. I certainly look forward to the day when I can return again to work with your congregations where you are, and I invite you to our place in Washington, D.C., as many of your youth have come in the past and we've engaged in work together. Our devotion today is from Psalm 19. The heavens are telling the glory of God, says the psalmist, because of the sun and the sky, and because, and maybe this is the part we often miss, because the law of the Lord is perfect. The Lord's is a law, the psalmist said, that lifts up your soul. The heavens sing because God's rules are right. They make your heart happy. And God's commandments and ordinances are true in a way we might say today that make your eyes smize. As the psalmist put it, God's laws enlighten the eyes. It feels amazing, doesn't it? Especially as we live in a society in a time of divided perspectives and where there is bickering over what is or isn't truth. It's amazing that we can know, as King David knew in the Psalm, that we can be confident and have full certainty that there is a direction to which we can look where laws are completely trustworthy. That direction is towards God's ways. For with God, there is full justice and love included in each regulation. Because he knew that, the psalmist prayed deeply that he would consider himself warned, that he might not ever be caught at fault in breaking God's laws. The season of Lent, interestingly, began with the prophet Joel in chapter 2 on Ash Wednesday, saying, "Let all of the inhabitants of the land tremble and return to the Lord with all your heart and fasting," in a way that recognized that God had a call to justice for the oppressed that he deeply desired. Joel's call was for obedience from the nation of Israel. And now the psalmist in Psalm 19 calls us each as individuals to never be arrogant or guilty in disrespecting God's laws. In my work with refugee and immigration ministries and with you and building your connections with asylum seekers and farm workers and others in your community, each day is filled with persons who often have not experienced justice in laws around them. Claudia has worked in the U.S. as a farm worker growing food for 20 years, but she's not been provided any financial or health supports through COVID. Ramon's kids were mostly born in the U.S., and he's always tried to support them through his work. But he was arrested one morning by ICE on the way to work, despite the fact that he's been a strong leader in his disciples' congregation and in his region. Alberto has spent decades as a DACA recipient with an excellent school record, but now he's not able to attend college. He has waited years for his wife to reunite with him in the U.S., and Rebecca is held back from the border by policies that will not allow for due processing, despite the fact that her husband was killed and the children were threatened. Every one of them knows well the difference between God's laws and the often unjust policies that daily affect their lives. They know, as the psalmist knew, that joy is brought into our hearts and eyes only when laws are just, when both as a nation and as individuals, we seek to follow and to build laws that are fair and trustworthy and rooted in love like God's. May we seek to do that. And may all who are experiencing unjust laws in this moment be blessed by the joy of God's just laws. Thanks be to God. Amen.